You can check out Purple Juice Man at Little Light Radio on Instagram.
Or on his OnlyFans. Purple Juice Man.
It's over 9.
What is going on, guys? Back at it again. It's your boy Nogi. Thank you so much for checking out the filler. I am here with my lovely, beautiful, humble, sexy chin-haired co-host, MARU.
What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing today? As you can see, we have a familiar face. I think I remember this guy from somewhere.
Just a guy who does things.
Yeah, who are you again?
I guess you might know me as the world's greatest, but I'm also Purple Juice Man. I mean, there's a couple of different aliases I go by, the Asian persuasion, a couple different things. But yeah, it's good to be here. And I just farted, so it smells really bad right now, right in front of me. But don't worry about it. I'm here, and I'm here to talk. It's content. Content.
We have a Low Light Radio reunion right now.
Yeah,
Little LLR 3.0. It's not.
Wait,
it's not Jarvis anymore. It's Friday.
Okay, just completely skip 2.0. How's everybody doing though?
Yeah.
You guys are good?
Doing good. I usually wear this mask around the wonderful city of New York. People have not coughed on me so far, so I've been all right. I've been alive.
Still surviving. So there's a couple things I want to talk to you guys about. The first one is the topic today. Is it more important to stay true to the original source material, or is it better to tweak it? And this could be in a general capacity, so anime, video games, movies, and all that stuff. But yeah, is it better to stick to the original or change it up a bit? What do you think, Nagi? I know you read a lot of manga, and obviously you watch a lot of anime, so...
That's wow. That is personally, I feel like it's ultimately I mean in a perfect world, I do think that it's something that should be taken highly into consideration. In a perfect world, I think that would be fantastic. I think to really have anime adaptation be spot on with the manga, especially if the manga is exceptionally done well, it only makes sense to pay respects to the artist, to the story, to do it properly. But at the same time, I know that there are a lot of restrictions that are not on manga that have to be on anime. So in a perfect world, yes, but I fully understand why. But ultimately, my answer to that question would have to be, if I could have it my way, yeah, I would want it to be a perfect, or as close to the manga response as possible.
What's the farthest that is acceptable for you that an anime can go from the manga? And by that, I mean like a couple fight changes, maybe a little bit of story changes, or in the aspect where it completely goes in a different direction. And I'll give you an example. How you have Full Metal Alchemist, who about episode 32, 33, they were a full manga adaptation, and then they completely went off the rails. So there was a different enemy, different boss, different fights, and a whole different story outcome at the very end.
Are you talking about Brotherhood, or are you talking about
between Brotherhood and regular Full Metal Alchemist?
Correct.
So what's like the farthest that's acceptable for you, Nagi, that it can go?
For me, my limit is very small. Like if you're starting off a storyline, especially if I've read the manga first, like if you're starting with a particular storyline, I feel like Full Metal Alchemist was able to do it because whether it was regular or Brotherhood, it was both done relatively well. The endings, even though different, were still done well in the experience of the viewer. But I'm pretty sure that if they had continued on with the essential plan of going with Full Metal Alchemist regular and didn't do Brotherhood, I'm pretty sure that people would have been upset. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure that there would have been a situation to where people would have been completely infuriated about the fact that reading the manga, that's what they experienced, and then seeing the show and it's a completely different outcome, there would have been some uproar. There would have been some negative responses, a couple of protests, and so on and so forth. The anime community is like lethal when it comes down to their reviews, when it comes down to their opinions. They will let you know when something is trash. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't hold any punches. So I'm pretty sure that that had a lot to do with the fact that Brotherhood was made the way that it was made. But for me, my limitations would relatively be just a difference in dialogue, just a difference in response. Like I'll give you an example. With My Hero Academia. Now I know My Hero Academia is not the only anime out there that has done this, but with My Hero Academia, the Lemillion fight versus Chisaki in the manga, that was something that was, and ironically, during that same arc, there was two situations to where the show did a perfect adaptation of the anime, and they did something that was a little bit watered down. The Lemillion fight versus Chisaki when he was defending Eri was a very watered down version of what the manga depicted, because the manga was a lot more dynamic. I really, really wished that they had animated an actual fight for Lemillion, whereas what they did was just kind of panel to panel art.
They had like
that
the
showed
stills.
that he was in the middle of a fight. Yeah, they were just stills. So that was really upsetting to me. Granted, manga is not animated, but every other fight was animated. I don't really remember a fight that was made by stills, no matter who it was, whether it was Bakugo versus Deku 1 and 2, Deku versus Muscular, All Might versus Nomu, even down to the last episode where Endeavor versus the Nomu, that was the only fight that was just done in stills, which makes sense because it probably had to do with the fact that they were running low on funds and they needed the higher animation for the Deku versus Chisaki fight, which made up for it, but that was disappointing to me. At the same time, earlier in that anime, Kirishima, when he magnified his quirk during his fight where he teamed up with Fat Gum and he became unbreakable, that was a perfect depiction of the manga. When it was a 2v2 fight,
yeah,
that moment was like spot on when in terms of how the manga was. It was absolutely perfect. So I really feel like that's as far as I will go. That's really my limitation to that aspect. Yeah.
What do you think, Perp?
I think as far as creativeness goes, we have a lot of different things we can look at in terms of pop culture. I think the biggest thing in terms of how far you can go and then have it all be destroyed is if we look at Game of Thrones and how it evolved and how it absolutely disintegrated from the actual source content, albeit the last book wasn't actually done by the time the series was done. The directors of the series took it in a completely terrible direction. I mean, we look at the first few seasons and we're just like, all right, this is pretty good to the source material. And then they removed whole characters and they decided to completely edit where they wanted to go and how the finale was even coming up. And I think that's a huge problem when you take too many creative liberties in terms of a series or a movie. If we talk about movies in general as well, the Harry Potter series is one part that actually did it well. They truncated a lot of things. They made things shorter. I remember specifically in the Goblet of Fire when you had all the different special events that they were trying to do for that movie, and they took out the Sphinx completely. They was supposed to talk to a Sphinx, and there was a whole thing there, and they completely took that out. And I guess what it boils down to is we have two different things, right? We have time. How much time do you have to tell a story, and how much money do you have to tell that story with? So when we're blessed with really long arcs that we see in more serialized anime, we have, like you said, My Hero is a great example of something that does have the time to tell the story, but do they have the budget? Do they have the money to do so? How detailed can they have the animations? Can they stick to all the panels that we see in manga? But that's the good thing about manga in general as well. They always say the books are better than the movie. In that same spirit, the manga is going to always be better than the animation, right. Only because there's more material, things you're going to miss in general. But I also like to think of some things that are okay if they're edited well are fillers, right? Because they're never part of the source material. But fillers that are something that adds a little bit more spice to a dynamic, like a character's dynamic. I don't really have a specific instance of that, but there's some times where you can watch a filler and you won't even know that it's filler because it's just like, oh, it's not bad. A lot of instances actually in Boruto are like that, where you have little side stories where they go off to a different village, and it's just like, okay, whatever, because the source material is still being made. So I think it's excusable at that point if the material's not even there yet, and they want to stick to it as best as they can, but they can't. So it's a dicey situation. I just think that you have extremes where there's a bad situation and it gets worse. Then you have something that's like excusable. So that's what I think.
Good. It's funny you say two of the things that I was going to touch on, which you brought up, is Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. So with Game of Thrones, obviously, and I'm not going to go too much into spoilers because hopefully everybody's watched it by now, but there's still people watching it. But
if you haven't watched it, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's like been over for a long time already. So, but there were, like you said, there was a lot of characters and a lot of specific moments that I don't see why you couldn't have added it, but it's still the show itself still was good without that. It was still fine to me. And then once you get to that point where the books aren't even finished yet, you kind of have to take those creative liberties. So there was kind of no choice. Now with the Harry Potter, you have the book adaptation, like you have the book and then you have the movie adaptation, and I think Goblet of Fire was like one of the worst adaptations because the whole part at the very end when you go through the maze, they condensed that so much into pretty much nothing, and I think that was just mishandled. And Harry Potter at that point, the Goblet of Fire was what, the fourth? Was that the fourth book?
Yeah, it was
the fourth movie, and they had a ton of money, so I don't see why they couldn't. So I think at the end of the day, it kind of really is based on how you handle it. I think Full Metal Alchemist handled it well because they came to a point where they had to either make fillers or they just went their own way. But since you had the creator doing it and having the input, he was like, you can kind of go this way and make, like, if I didn't do this in the story, I would have done this. So you kind of got like an alternate universe type of sets, and I think that's when it worked well. But when it's really based on how you handle it, and I think it's just, I don't know, Fullmetal Alchemist just did it really well. But there's some like I said, Harry Potter just completely dropped the ball for me. So
there's actually another there's another perfect example of this particular topic, which leads me to a possibility of what can necessarily come to pass. The particular example is Captain America: Civil War. That's a major example of what it is that we're talking about, because in the original comics, there was hundreds of heroes. And the way that the entire situation happened, the way that it was settled was, I think it was Goliath. Goliath was killed in battle, and he was like massive. He was huge. So it wasn't like his death was not going to be unnoticed. So it was like everybody kind of stopped and looked at the situation. It was like, oh man, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? But one of the things about it is that I'm pretty sure the both of you remember when they were first implementing Captain America: Civil War, they didn't show Spider-Man until the last trailer, like the final release trailer, before I think maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the movie came out. And I'll never forget that drop because it was the trailer. You saw all the original stuff that we was looking at with, Captain and Tony kind of going head to head, Black Panther, War Machine, Winter Soldier coming back, so on and so forth. And then that iconic Underoos scene. And then it was like fade to black and immediately Captain America: Civil War. Like that's all you saw. But there was a possibility, like how they worked that in there, how they quickly made a deal with Sony to implement Spider-Man specifically into Captain America: Civil War was something that was a very important tactic that Marvel utilized and was able to expand on, because they was really about to have a Civil War movie without the character that was the reason Civil War was going to start in the first place. Civil War was, we all remember the comics, Civil War happened because Spider-Man was the first person under the Registration Act that took off his mask and showed the world who he was. It started with that action with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was the first hero. So it was really about to have a whole movie about that comic, about that situation without the main person. And they still managed to find a way to do it. And yet there was a couple of complaints, but it was still on a level to where it was 100% accepted as that adaptation of that storyline. And nobody really had an issue about the lack of heroes that wasn't featured in the movie. And that leads me to the point pertaining, which is involving anime and manga again. I don't know if you guys read the Demon Slayer manga, but it just recently finished, and the final arc of the manga is something that is going to be incredibly good to see visually as an anime adaptation. But I'm almost positive for a fact that they're not going to show certain things. There's going to be certain things that are going to be diluted. There are going to be certain things that are probably not going to make it into the show. There are going to be certain fights and certain scenarios that occur that, because of the severity and the gruesomeness of what happens, it might not actually be seen in the anime because of what Perp was saying, budgeting restrictions in terms of visual, the legal situations that will really restrict them from projecting that type of visual situations on a big screen because of children and so on and so forth, and X, Y, and Z ratings and whatnot. The maturity and the graphic issue of the nature that's being shown, things of that area is why a lot that's in Demon Slayer, the manga, is not going to be seen. But how close are they going to get to it? We remember seeing Rin cut his own head off to save himself from being cut by a Demon Slayer sword. So there's like that level, but then there's like can we push, how far of the bar can we push past self-decapitation? You know what I mean? Like situations like that.
How much money goes into how much money goes into actually making an anime episode, do you guys think?
A lot.
How much of that budget goes to animating the tits?
I hope a lot. It depends on the anime we're talking about.
Think about High School of the Dead.
Oh no, that was a lot. That was a lot.
Sure.
That was a lot. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that whole bullet scene probably cost a whole lot of money.
There's no reason why I said Boobs was doing this to dodge a bullet.
Yeah.
There's no reason why that worked. There was no reason.
No, I mean, it had to. You had to. It was just necessary.
I always think about that, though. I always think about that.
I'm really curious about this final arc you're talking about. I'm pretty sure you're describing Nezuko fighting naked. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. And
she's a child.
She comes out of not in Japan.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I'm interested.
Welcome to the final episode of the filler before we get cut by YouTube.
No, but I think the budget is a lot, and when you think about all the different studios that are vying for a budget, because there's so much source material out there, there's so many mangas out there that, you know, everybody's going to have their own argument about, like, hey, I think this should be an anime, right? And I think that's the biggest problem. You'll see a lot of credits nowadays. Actually, if you watch the end credits of a lot of anime, you'll see that it's got Korean names, it's got Chinese names in there. You have people are actually outsourcing the animation studios so they can make these things come to life. So it all ties back into, you know, how much money and how much time do you have to tell your story. Right. So you know, I hope for the best.
Going with that topic, and talking about fan service, do you guys think that does fan service actually hurt anime, or does it add more to the bundle? And you can actually talk about fan service in a general capacity for anything, but for anime in particular, what do you think fan service does?
You go ahead, Perp.
Okay. Well, okay. So there's two schools of thought, right? There's two definitions to fan service. There's one where a animation studio or a manga decides to do something that we want to do or want to see. And for a lot of different anime, it's something that you kind of have to, right? You have to see a certain fight play out, or you have to see a certain interaction play out, right? Or certain transforming mecha do its thing. But when we're talking about the more sexual side of things, fan service, it really depends. And I guess that's the more like, if you're into anime, you know that fan service really means like you're going to see a pair of titties. It really depends on if the story calls for it, or if the actual anime is a part of what it needs. Like, okay, so specifically, I'm going to talk about an anime that literally revolves around titties. It's called Seikon no Quasar, and the whole thing is getting your powers from drinking the breast milk of a woman who is ordained as someone special. It revolves around titties, so you're going to see titties. It's part of the whole thing. So if you don't see this one person grab a titty, suck the soma out of it, and then do a special move, then there's no point to having this anime even exist. Another one is more recently, Monster Musume. It's literally a harem of different types of chicks from different like mythos from around the world. So they start off with a guy, and he's with a mythical chick. It's like a Lamia, right? So she's half snake, and there's some like, you know, sexy things happening, and then there's like a harpy, and then she's part of the crew and all these things. There's a lot of nudity, but that's kind of because it's trying to tickle your fancy. It's supposed to be like titillating. It wouldn't fit in a situation where, like in DBZ, seeing Bulma completely nude, why does the story call for it? It could, but I don't see it being something that would warrant a situation like that. And then I guess the other term of fan service would be like seeing Vegeta actually beat Frieza. Like that would be something we want to see, but we don't get it because it's part of the growth of a character, I suppose, you know? But yeah, that's my 2 cents, titties.
I think though with titties, that's just 2 cents, titties. I think fan service though, and Cliff is dead. Nagi's done. That's it.
So I'm listening. I'm just
okay.
Go ahead.
So I think, and Nagi, you can answer this question for me. I think fan service, because obviously you know you're the expert. I mean, we all watch Dragon Ball Z, but I really think you're the expert among the three of us. I think fan service actually hurts Dragon Ball in the sense that there's so many fans of Goku. So to counter your argument, Purple, you're saying that we won't get the fan service of seeing Vegeta, but I think it's actually we're not because of the fan service of Goku, since everybody's in love with Goku, that's the reason we'll never get to see Vegeta actually win, because the creators are always going to be on Goku's side. And I could be wrong, but I think that's part of the reason why we never get to see Vegeta do those things.
I think in terms of what you just said, I think that makes both of you correct. And in that particular argument, literally both of you are correct at the exact same time, because not only, yes, Goku is a very beloved character. He is the main protagonist. He is the one that that carries the show ultimately. But at the same time, because of the every equal amount of characters that are loving the main protagonist, there is an equal amount of people who really love the counter to that protagonist. Just as many, for the amount of people who love Superman, there's just as many people who love Batman. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like the fan service for that particular situation, the both of you are correct. Yes, the reasons why we won't see Vegeta really get that shining beacon of light is because of the fact that there are so many people in favor of Goku, and because he's the main protagonist, usually they want to see that character win. Prime example is Naruto, which is a direct descendant of Dragon Ball Z. That's pretty obvious. But would it have been as satisfying to see somebody else fight Pain and win? Of course not. It wouldn't. If it could have been anybody else, but if it wasn't Naruto, it would not have had the same impact. It would not have really done anything because of how that arc was followed through. Throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball, you have Goku fighting these characters and fighting these villains, but ultimately the villains, even though they have necessary reasons to be beaten by Vegeta, those villains particularly do something to Goku that is just a little bit more tragic or a little bit more motivating for him to be the victor in the fight. For instance, Frieza. Yes, Frieza blew up planet Vegeta and killed all of the Saiyans, but Frieza blew up Krillin right in front of Goku's face. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he blew him up right in his face. You know what I mean? Even, down to Cell. Like, Yes. What was it? No, after Frieza. No, yeah, Frieza was Cell, then Cell. So after the Cell saga, it was Gohan who beat Cell. Yeah, Frieza, Cell definitely murdered Trunks right in front of Vegeta's face, but Vegeta wasn't as powerful as Cell, right? So Cell popped a hole in Trunks' chest. Vegeta wasn't as powerful. Nobody knew that Gohan was more powerful than everybody else except Goku. And what happened to Gohan? Android 16's head was completely crushed right in front of his face. So like all of the things that are pertaining to that argument are necessary. So both of you are absolutely correct. I just don't think that, personally, I don't think that Vegeta is going to necessarily ever get a win, mainly because of the simple fact that if he gets the win, will he be Vegeta? If you think about it, will he ever be that consistent grinding underdog if he actually gets a win? You know what I mean?
That is true.
Like he will never. He'll have a win, but after that, it'll be a situation to where it's like if there was a situation to where there was a singular arc where Vegeta was the actual savior in that arc. Think about the situations that would transpire after that. He would get a bit more arrogant. He would get a bit more egotistical. He would start to lose what he worked. He would his literal characteristics to maintain that consistency to be better will be lost because he finally got a W. You see what I'm saying? Like that consistent need to prove that he's capable of doing that will no longer be there. Because if you notice, Goku has either won a fight because of the help of his friends. Goku has either won a fight with the help of Vegeta. Gogeta, the fusion techniques, Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, they turned into Gogeta, but they was fighting side by side. But it's a situation to where it's like at the end of the day, he always got the final hit, basically. But if there's a scenario where Vegeta is actually the savior, I really feel like his character will kind of grow with consistency to where the next arc, he would immediately be chopped down a notch. He would immediately be humbled because of that situation. So I don't really feel that there's a necessary need for Vegeta to actually get a W. I think that the necessary situation is exactly what's happening with him, to where Vegeta is a character that doesn't necessarily need to be the savior of an arc. He just needs to be a character that is able to stand on his own 2 feet without the help of others. One of the most iconic things that I've ever seen Vegeta do has been self-sacrifice that has literally been for nothing because it did nothing. But his character to self-sacrifice himself has always been there. You have the Majin Buu situation where he did the final explosion. And then you have the very next situation where he fought Toppo. He didn't beat Toppo. Wait, he did beat Toppo. He beat Toppo by himself. You see what I'm saying? He beat a God of Destruction candidate by himself, and he used Final Explosion directly, you know what I'm saying, in the same aspect. So that was a necessary situation. But the next scenario where it was self-sacrifice that was equally one of the most iconic Vegeta moments was when he fought Jiren in base form. He lost, but it was still a prideful moment as a Vegeta fan because he kept standing up. Base form, a whole cookie the size of an elbow sitting on his face, but he stood up. That he doesn't need to get a win. He kept standing up. That's the point. You see what I'm saying?
I think
you got to have a loser. Makes sense.
I think with in terms of fan service and a good thing for us.
Fight me.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, to speak to that point real quick, I don't want to take too long on this, but I'm thinking about it, and it's true, and I'm trying to relate this to another series completely non-related but related. You run out of story when you give fans what they want. I was thinking about The Office in my mind, actually, and when people started getting the things they wanted in The Office, like Pam and what's his name, the main characters, they got married, and then I don't know, certain things happened in The Office, and then it started like just dying off. And a lot of those comedy shows, like you have Parks and Rec, and Leslie Knope, she got the Congress. Well, no, she didn't get the Congresswoman job. She got the representative job or something like that. A lot of these things, especially with sitcoms and shows and stuff in general, they start losing substance when the person that's been grinding for so hard finally gets a win. And I think that's actually playing very well into that. Like, you actually do have to have a loser, a lovable loser. And it could be a main character or it doesn't have to be main character. I think the reason why Goku keeps winning is because he's the dumb protagonist. It's like he's the guy who just wants to fight. You throw him in there because it's just something that makes sense. Even Saitama, when you think about it, right? He always wins. Yes, he gets that one punch in. He's a winner, but he's kind of a dumb protagonist. They're almost one and the same. When you think about Goku and Saitama, it's like dumb guy win. You know, almost Naruto as well. I'm sorry, I know you love him, and you know you want to suck his.
No, Naruto is definitely the dumb protagonist. He's a
dumb protagonist.
I want to do
nothing. No, what I'm saying is that it's true, and it's kind of crazy now. It's all kind of coming to my head. It makes sense.
I mean, if you look at Pokemon, the creator of Pokemon specifically had said, "I wanted Ash to never win the Pokemon League because he needs to keep grinding." And
exactly.
I need to show people that it's not about winning at the end. It's just about rising up every time you lose.
Yeah, and then he just won actually.
And then he finally won. But it took like 20 years.
20 years, and he's still 10, by the way, or 11.
But I think in terms of fan service, and this is a good topic, real quick to talk about before we close out. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but fan service and Destiny. That's a big issue.
Fan service and Destiny is our biggest issue is ourselves, because there is a sheer volume amount of people who consistently talk about what they want, and then when they get what they want, they don't like it. There needs to be, I'm being dead serious about this, there needs to be a one track particular moment that makes weapons behave the way that they should behave, and no more changes. That's it. Why? It's okay to disagree. I know a lot of people disagree with that, because there's a lot of different variables that comes into Destiny. There's a lot of different guns that do different things, that have different perks for different reasons, and so on and so forth. I'm not disagreeing with that. I know I'm a hand cannon guy, right? I'm okay with a 150 hand cannon having a faster TTK than a 140 hand cannon. What I don't like is when a 140 hand cannon is in an optimal space to where it can benefit from its positioning, whether it's range, whether it's accuracy, whatever. If it's in a position to where it should come out on top, then it should come out on top. That's my point. Yes, it should have a faster TTK. It fires faster, so of course. But if I'm using optimal range on a gun that has better range perks, then that should matter. That should be implemented into it. But I understand that there are different variables. I understand. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different pieces of a puzzle that are being put into every different gun that are with multiple archetypes. There's at this point, there's damn near too much to where everything is going to be perfect, but we kind of have to accept that not everything's going to be perfect, right? But once we find a system that works, there needs to be no more changes. There needs to be no more adjustments. Not everything is going to be perfect in Destiny because there's too much in Destiny to perfect. But once we find something I'm not asking for 100%. Fan service wants 100% because not everybody uses the same exact stuff. Hand cannon users want a hand cannon meta. I know because I play with them. Hand cannon users want hand cannon metas, and they want to be able to snipe. They want to be able to shotgun. They want to be able to do this, and they want their weapons to do what their weapons are supposed to do. But the people who aren't using the weapons of those particular player types, they want to be able to feel and play how they want to play. So not everything is going to be balanced. Not everything is going to be perfect. What there needs to be is something that's as close to 100% as possible, and then no more changes. Because the moment you continue to change something, and I'm only talking about weapon balancing, ability balancing is another conversation. But for that particular topic, find something relatively close to 100%. Try to get it as close to the bullseye as you can, and then leave it. Why? Because no one is always, Destiny has too much in the game. Not everyone is going to stay satisfied. That's the issue. That's the problem. They're trying too hard to keep everyone satisfied to where everyone can play. That's not going to happen. There's too much in the game. There's too much in the game. And then they keep adding stuff. Hence why they're sunsetting weapons. It's too much in the game. They're trying to remove space to implement new stuff, which is fine. We want that. We want new stuff. We want new armor. We want new looks. We want new gear. We want that. That's okay. I don't think there's a necessary need for consistent rebalancing, though, because what is that going to do? A constant meta change season after season after season after season? That's draining to the point to where you're forcing people to literally play meta. You're forcing your entire community to do that. I don't agree with that. If I don't want to play with auto rifles, I shouldn't have to play with auto rifles. For an entire season, months on end, I have to pick up a Suros? Why? I don't like Suros. I don't like Hardlight. Why do I have to play that? Why do I have to play that weapon class? Because it's meta? That doesn't make sense. I understand that there are games that need meta, but there should be counters to meta. That's my point. Once you find that, that's it. Cool. Make meta weapons meta. That's fine. But make sure that there are counters to those meta weapons. And then leave it. Just leave it as is. And then build content on top of that. Layer that foundation, build content on top of that. Whoever complains just complains. That's stop listening to the complainers. Work on the game and make sure that the game is working. People are complaining for the right reasons, but too many people are complaining for the wrong ones.
Burp, what do you think?
I think there has to be a meta. I agree
with you. I'll let you explain why first.
Every season, you're never going to be able to fix PvP ever. And that's just my honest opinion. I really think that there's always going to be something that comes out on top. And this has happened in D1. This has happened in D2. This has happened in every season period. It's happened in COD. It's happened since the days that I remember holding an M16 in the very first COD. And that thing ruled the entire... It doesn't matter where you were. That was the douchebag gun.
Right.
But why does this happen? It's because as the player... you make the decision whether or not you want to follow that route. And yes, the Suros is pretty extreme right now as the fastest TTK in terms of any primary in the game, understandably so. But there's still very talented players out there that work around that and actually get the upper hand on that because they know how to play it. The problem that we're really seeing right now is that we'll never, ever be satisfied no matter what. If it's back to a hand cannon meta, if it's back to like an Ias Luna meta where it's what is it, two shots body, one shot head, or vice versa. If we're back to that, people will complain about that. It's the whole skill gap thing. It exists, but you cannot fit in the lower tiers of skill. It's always going to happen. I think this auto rifle meta was meant to bring people that don't play Crucible into the Crucible so then they could feel confident to play Trials, which just came in. But everything in the season's a recycle. Every single thing's a recycle. Everything from the Seraph Tower, which is literally just another escalation protocol on different planets. And then you have the actual bunkers, which are just a bunch of lost sectors with legendary lost sectors. I do them all solo. There's nothing legendary about them. And then you have Trials, which we had years ago. So literally they're running out of ideas. And I think that the reason why they do this is to stir up all this emotion and make people feel like, I can play well in Crucible because of this. I think for the benefit of the general populace, you need a meta, but at the end of the day, that's why so many people are walking away from the game or not playing it as enthusiastically. Like I play it, but I really feel like it's a checklist every day. It's like I have to do this, and this, and then now I want to play my Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I don't want to play anything else. Like I just want to do other things, and that's a pity. That's a pity when I think about how many things we've endured in terms of this whole entire lifespan of Destiny, and when you listen to the fans, and Bungie's always been good at listening to fans. Ever since their Halo days, like they've been very good with that, and they've been really good in terms of making sure that cheaters get banned and things like that. But I think it's grown out of their hands, and I think the actual split with Activision hurt them a lot because they don't have the budget, they don't have the manpower, and especially with this coronavirus, they don't have the time to really work on all the things that matter. And I posted recently on Little Light Radio the whole, this has been the buggiest season yet. The buggiest. Every single exotic quest has been bugged. There's been connectivity issues and things like that. And I think you have to stop listening to fans. And I think you said this, Cliff, but you gotta stop listening to them and literally fix everything first. We need to have a working thing to even complain about. And you know what? So what? The auto rifle thing is an auto rifle thing. They literally built this whole season around auto rifles. In the actual artifact, you have all these things that make auto rifles better. It's obvious that they wanted this to be a thing this season, and they're going to keep doing this. I don't know what the point is, and I don't really care. But I think that they need to fix everything first, and that's the number one fan servicey thing you can do. Just fix everything.
So here's the thing, though.
Or show Microsoft cities. What's up?
So the state. Wait, what did you say?
Nothing. No, nothing.
The state of Destiny as it is right now, and we've had this for years. The way the game is now, whose fault is it? Is it Bungie's fault or is it the fan service? Or is it our fault?
It's Bungie's fault for. It's everyone's fault. It's everyone's. I'm dead serious.
We all ruined Destiny.
We all, bro. We all literally ruined the game. It's our fault for being it's our fault for continuously complaining, but being inconsistent about what we're complaining about. And then it's Bungie's fault for listening to that advice and following the complaints. Particularly, not at the same time. I'm not saying that they are, because I've made this statement before, and I was actually, shout out to Triple Red, because he was the one that I was having that conversation with, and I remember that I was in a stream and Triple was there, and we had that conversation, and I made this statement, and he made a response that literally put my foot in my mouth. I made the response that Bungie doesn't. This is in the beginning of everything. I made the response to where Bungie has a consistent situation to where they don't necessarily read or look at what the players are actually trying to express to them. And Triple's response was, I really don't understand why people think that Bungie looks at people's words when what they look at is numbers. What they look at in terms of meta and why meta changes. Before, it was a different situation back in D1, right? So now they implemented a situation to where they can actually control the data numbers, which connects to what Purple says about why there needs to be a meta. If you remember back in D1, things like the Clever Dragon days, things like the Aya's Luna days, things like the Palindrome days, there were numbers and stats that were implemented that would be seen to the highest used weapons, and then that's how they would balance it. Now it's a situation to where they already know what weapons are going to be used the most, because they implemented artifacts and mods that make those weapons the most powerful. So that's a level and an area of stats and statistics and information and data that they don't even need to look at now, because they already know it's going to be used the most. Of course, there's going to be more auto rifle shotgun loadouts. Of course, there's not going to be as much sniper rifles because of the fact that there's auto rifles consistently being there. And to connect on what you're saying, yes, there are going to be better players, not only in PvP, but also in PvE. And I know that PvE is kind of like they're struggling in silence right now because there's so much focus on PvP, because PvP is what follows this game and this is that, but the PvP solution, they're dealing with just as much problems as we are because of what Mike just said. PvE feels like a weekly checklist rather than an actual game. It feels like you're doing homework. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel like you log on, you do your weeklies, you do your raids, you do everything that you need for your pinnacle and powerful gear, you log off. And that's just PvE.
I didn't have fun shotgunning dogs for 3 hours for my Fellwinters. I was doing the Fellwinters quest, and I'm like, I stopped mid-quest. I don't even care about it. That's how crazy it is. I don't even care about the gun. This is Fellwinters. I don't even care about the gun enough. I don't care about the game enough to give a damn about the gun and get it. That's what
unpopular opinion. It's not that great.
which is fine. I literally, the last time I played Destiny for like a lengthy time was when I was the Bungie bounty. That was it. That was it. I haven't really played it since. So it's like,
Cliff, I was going to ask you something.
go for it.
Okay. I remember you went to, I don't know if you actually went to Bungie or how that worked out.
No,
Did you go? You went to Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I don't know how much you could talk about it because the NDA should be up by now because whatever you might have experienced there should be already public knowledge, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Roughly.
Did they at any point ask you what your opinions were in a face-to-face or in like a circle or something like that? Did anybody reach out to you? Any of the developers there? I know the community managers don't deal directly with them, but I'm talking about specific people that are part of the development team. Did they ever talk to you about anything in terms of how you felt about what you were playing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I guess they are listening to people.
And that's why I don't say anything on the internet, because there are the people who are talking the most crap, and I'm not going to express or emphasize on names, but you know who you are. The people who are legitimately talking the most literally have no idea what's happening behind closed doors. I was at Bungie. I went there. It wasn't a situation where they invited me to this hotel and then we stayed in that hotel and just had a meeting back and forth. No, like the hotel was the place to sleep and meet up and eat. But we left the hotel to go to the headquarters. I sat there. The VODs, you know that VOD that they be having, and they have that large room to where you see that slew of computers. I was there. I walked that hallway. Every single chair had an ass in it. So it's like they're working. They're trying. They're putting in effort. So that's why I don't say anything in terms of that argument. You know what I mean?
That's what I figured.
All right. So here's the thing before we wrap up. If there's briefly talk about it if you want to. What's one thing that you feel needs to be changed for you to be able to come back next season? Just one thing.
Can everything be an answer?
No, what's the one thing if they put out the TWAB and you read it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go play this season? And you could be like, there's nothing that they can say right now that's gonna do that. So Perp, what's the one thing for you to be like, you know what, I'll grind out this season?
Factions. Day in, day out, all I think about is the fact that they literally swap the whole way that factions work and then they never put it back in again. And you know me.
New Monarchy.
Just Monarchy for life.
Dead orbit, though.
Anyway, yeah, I did. But, you realize your wrongdoings later in life. Hindsight's 20/20. So anyway, but the truth is, it's simple. Like, you get passion for a game once you have decisions that really make you decide what you want your character to be, and that's all part of character building. That's a part of a larger topic, but factions gives you that little bit of like, yes, I made a decision and I want to stick with this decision. And they have not done that kind of decision-making period in this game. The one time that you thought you did something was that whole Drifter versus the Vanguard thing, and you never even got to see the other chick. So I don't even know what that's all about. Whatever. It's garbage. But once they make you choose something, so like a faction or make an actual choice in the game that's permanent, I'll be like, all right, this is it. This is the thing that really makes me passionate again.
I think for me, if I see that they finally fix the tower, I'll come back.
Working on that tower for years.
That shit's still under construction. What about you, Nagi?
Honestly, content. As a PvP player, I'm starting to realize that the implements that they have in terms of everything that they're trying to rework is a situation of how one section of the game is going to impact the other. How is PvE going to impact PvP, and how is PvP going to impact PvE? In a perfect world, I would like the two situations to be separate and have identical power in terms of what they're focusing on. So literally have one department solely focus on PvP and how PvP affects PvP. I don't give a damn about how it affects PvE. I don't care, because in D1, PvP loadouts did nothing in PvE. Nothing. You didn't do well. Y'all watched me run the raid with the last word. And what was I doing? Nothing. I didn't do nothing. I got yelled at the entire time because I didn't switch my loadout. That's not a lie. I did it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I did it, that's how it's supposed to be, right? What would bring me back to Destiny? A reason to play Destiny, which ultimately is not PvP. It's content. Bring good content. Bring good reasons to play PvE. Eventually, PvP will be there, and then PvP is end game content at the end of the day. Yes, I love PvP to the death of me. I adore it. I could play it for hours if it's fun, but at the end of the day, PvP is end game content. It's still a game at the end of the day. There needs to be primary content, which is PvE. Bring reasons in PvE. Make it satisfying. Make it difficult. Make the rewards rewarding. Give me a reason to grind the game out. We have not had a game that we can actually play for hours on end for a reason. How many hours did we put into Destiny? How many hours did you put into it, Pert? What about you, Mike? How many businesses and careers was made because of Destiny? Because of the content of Destiny? How many people's careers popped off because of their first experience in Vault of Glass? How many memories do we have? How many babies was born? Literally relationships, literal marriages was done because, bro, there was literally a proposal that was implemented into the game. Destiny has changed lives, but that was PvE content. It was PvE content that changed people's careers. So there are PvP players, but it's like, what's going to bring me back to Destiny? PvE. I'll play PvP when I'm ready to play PvP, but I want to play something that's going to give me a reason to grind it out. If I find a good PvP weapon while playing PvE, great, fantastic. I'll try it out. If I don't have fun because of a damn Suros, then like Perp said, that's on me because I'm choosing a loadout that's not meta. So I expect to have a little harder experience, right? But at the end of the day, PvE. It's that simple.
That's it.
I want better PvE. And I'm saying that as a PvP player.
We just all want Destiny to be better than it already is.
I'm so tired of saying that, bro.
I just want Marsoft nude. But yeah, for sure. I think we're all good. Yeah, I think yeah.
All right, so Perp, where can people find you, man? If they want to.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still on the Little Light Radio page, so anytime there. My personal page doesn't really make much sense, but I'll tell you what, you can check out 40 Flying Fish anytime you want. We're pretty much just doing graphics at the moment. Not much in terms of gaming, but in terms of more like special effects for studios, things like that. We might get into gaming stuff soon, but as of right now, we're just kind of working on a couple of really cool projects. We also have a gaming website for 40 Flying Fish, but that will be on a later date. If I come back here, we'll talk about it sometime.
If you guys want a perfect example of what these guys can do, our little intro was done by Mr. Purple Juice Man right here.
Yes, sir. That's
which
me.
I got a lot of compliments about and some DMs saying, asking who did it. So there you go.
Got it. So I'm guessing you didn't see the secret the thing that I put in there, right?
Oh, now I'm gonna have to go frame by flame after this.
I'm just joking.
You're gonna have me like Bungie trying to solve a freaking riddle over here. The numbers, Mason. Sure. The numbers.
The numbers mean. The numbers mean.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching today's episode. We appreciate you guys. Just want to give a quick shout out to G1 and Mr. Kenny for making G1. I think, and you guys can attest this, G1 is consisted of a bunch of great players, a bunch of great Destiny, Destiny content creators. Yeah, I think I really like what they stand for, and it's a great organization. So I'm really excited for what's to come from them. Yeah, I just want to give them a quick shout out. We'll be back next
Hunter
week.
Smells really good, by the way.
He does, and he has amazing hair. And t-shirts. I got his.
I don't know if it's good as yours. I think you two have like equal hair. They could like fight one day, and then we'd have to see. You know?
Our hair's just like come alive and just like.
All right, thanks for checking out the filler, guys. We're gonna have an episode that's gonna be up next week. It's definitely a blessing to have you. You can check out Maru on Mixer, mixer.com/itsmaru. You can check out myself at mixer.com/vnogi. You can check out Purple Juice Man at Little Light Radio on Instagram.
Or on his OnlyFans. Purple Juice Man.
Oh, God. Bye.
Bye, guys.